Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another inspiring episode of Insights That Inspire. And today we have a very special and very inspiring guest on the show. Her name is Anez, and she has been an educator and she's a life coach. And currently, she's mentoring and guiding students. She's supporting parents and she's empowering professionals with a focus on social emotional awareness. So, if you wanna learn how to manage your emotions, then this episode is going to be super important for you. Make sure to watch it till the end. And so far, she has delivered multiple workshops, multiple events in schools to support thousands of teachers and across India and in Nepal. So currently, she is creating global impact uh, in order to transform people's life. And as recently, she got certified as a life coach. So now she is on a mission to help more and more people and individuals to transform their life. So again, I would say if you want to learn how to manage your emotions, which is very important nowadays in order to grow personally and professionally in personal life and professional life, then make sure to watch this episode till the end. So Anish, oh, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. I'm super duper excited for this episode, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are going to watch it, they are going to learn a lot of new things. They are going to get a lot of insights. So once again, thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it is my pleasure also. So Anish, can you just tell me more about your journey? Like you has been an educator, now you are a life coach. So like what was there any turning point in your life which made you feel that you need to be a life coach?
So, Mohit, I've worked in residential schools largely for about 30 years. And I retired in 2019 as head of training from the Doon School, Dehradun, which is a large residential boys' school. And after that, I was doing freelance workshops for teachers, teacher development. And I realized one thing that a child's development does not depend upon academics alone. Social emotional learning is key for them to grow up to be responsible, happy, mature adults. And then I also realized that this is not a skill just for children. This is something that every person needs for success in life. So, transiting from being an educator to being a life coach was a very natural transition. And I'm doing pretty much the same kind of work, but just with a much wider audience. So this felt very natural to me. And of course, I've always been very passionate about understanding human behavior, why we behave the way we do. So hence the focus on emotional intelligence and emotional awareness.
Yeah, but the point is that, especially, when it is like it is the beginning of any kid career, when they are in their 14, 15, 16, a lot of parents they ignore like they need to learn the art of, managing their emotions. They ignore it completely because they feel that academic education is much, much superior and more important for them to have a secure future. So can you just tell the parents out there, those who are ignoring the importance of emotional intelligence, like why it is so important to learn students or to every individual to master their emotions or to understand their emotions in better way.
So you're absolutely right. I think many of us tend to ignore emotional intelligence because it's not a hard skill. It's sometimes called a soft skill, but I call it an essential skill.
Yeah.
And if teachers and students do not have the intelligence, do not have the skills to cope with challenges, to cope with situations, how will they cope with stresses of academics? So, so if they are able to increase their emotional awareness, if they are able to understand what they're feeling, if they're able to identify what they're feeling, they will then be able to manage their behavior. They will then have choices in life. And all of this does impact their academics. Without emotional safety, a child cannot learn. If a child is constantly under threat, or if a child is constantly got expectation that they're unable to cope with, and they have low emotional intelligence, they are not going to be able to cope with their academics. And there is no way their academic results will be as expected. So it's important for teachers to have good emotional skills and high emotional awareness of the environment in their class. And it's important for students to be able to identify what they're feeling so that their response is based on what they think is going to be the impact to those around them. And hence, it's important for parents to realize that emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, whatever you might call it, is not something to be ignored, neither at home nor at the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely right. And why do you think like today's children and even adults are struggling with emotional problems like stress, anxiety, or and there are so many emotional problems that they face compared to earlier time.
Today, the pace of life is very fast.
Yeah,
There is no time to pause and think. And that's the problem. I think we're constantly rushing into things, we're constantly rushing from point A to point B without really thinking about what we are doing. So it's very reactive. And of course, there's overstimulation of the brain because of social media, because of the internet, because of the hours that we spend on the screen. And I mean, I'll give you a simple example. We'll look at road rage today. It takes probably 10 or 15 seconds for somebody to begin to get angry. And why is that? That's because they haven't taken the time to think of their reaction. They haven't taken the time to think what they're feeling. So until we're able to create that time, until we're able to pause, until we're able to respond rather than react, we're going to constantly be rushing into situations, and that then results in children facing challenges. The other thing is it's a very competitive world. Children are up against, in academics, for example, if you look at it, to get into good colleges, if you don't get that 97, 98, 99%, they're not going to be able to get the college of their choice. And that puts a huge amount of stress on them. And that also puts stress on the parents. So all of this is adding to the fact that children are unable to cope with the situations around them. And if we can help them improve their emotional awareness, if we can help them respond rather than react, that will definitely go a long way in their happiness and their success.
yeah. And you just said that social media is one of the reason. But nowadays, everybody is super active on social media. They are not just using it, they are overusing it. So, can you just tell them like how social media is impacting their emotional strength?
So, social media generates a chemical in our body which is addictive. And when a child says, okay, I'm just going to look at one thing on social media, one Instagram post, it's very tempting for them to go on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And before you know what, that 1 minute has turned into 2 hours or 3 hours. So it overstimulates the mind. And after that, if they get down to academics, they've A, lost time, but more than that, they're not able to focus the way they should. So, of course, social media is very useful. The internet is very useful. We all use it. I mean, you and I are today on a platform, which is a social media platform.
Yeah,
So it certainly had its value. If we can use this in a meaningful manner, if we can encourage children to limit it to a certain amount of time a day, if parents and children can have that discussion and agree that they will not go beyond a certain point, that is helpful. So it's only about setting boundaries. It's about looking at the content that is relevant because there is no end to posting things and waiting for likes. That's what happens. You post something and you go back after 15 minutes to see has somebody liked it. You go back after 2 hours to see has somebody commented on it. And that then becomes counterproductive. So setting boundaries and limits is what will help parents and children work with social media rather than against social media.
yeah, absolutely. And Anish, as you have already worked with multiple students, parents, you have delivered multiple, events, workshops. So, from your experience, what are the most common challenge that you see in families today when it comes to emotional problems?
If I talk about students, I think the biggest challenge is for them to be able to manage their behavior. So, especially when you look at teenagers, they are very reactive. And because I've worked largely in, all boys schools, I find that children very often fall back on physical fighting or getting angry. They're not able to identify what they're feeling. And socially also, generally men find it more difficult to deal with emotions. And we feel that emotions is something to be suppressed. Don't show your emotions in public. Don't cry in public. So all of that then results in students suppressing their emotions, which makes them feel very lonely. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what they're feeling. And that then comes out in anger, temper, fights, and all of that. If they're able to identify their emotions, they will be able to respond and behave in the manner that is required of the situation.
What I've seen, there are many parents, they think that they are doing best. You know, they are providing everything to their kid. They're taking care. They have like they have a person who is taking care of their kid at the home. But still, there is the gap. You know, kid is not openly like sharing openly everything. There is emotional disconnection between parents and kids. So, what is the reason behind it? Why it is happening?
Parenting is not easy, and parenting is not perfect. Every parent does the best for their child, and the intentions are always good.
Yeah.
But sometimes, because we're not aware of our responses, we might end up in a situation which we don't really like the results of. And that's really nobody's fault. It's just that, we haven't been taught the skills. We don't have the awareness. In the old days, pace of life was easier. Parents had the time. Both parents were not necessarily working. There might have been a grandparent in the house. And all of that helped keep situations in the house much calmer. Today, parents are rushing all the time. So when a child does something wrong, they generally tend to correct. They're not really waiting to understand what is happening with the child. When we have conversations with the child, when we communicate with the child, it comes from a place of correction. And of course, we're correcting because we want the best for them. It's not because we're mean parents or because we want to hurt them. It's because we feel, oh, we know best. So if we correct them, then the next time the child will not make this mistake. But very often behind the behavior is an emotion. So I think the parents are lacking the time to truly listen to understand, to ask the questions that will help them understand, to allow the child to explain why they're doing certain things, what is making them do what they're doing. So I think that is the biggest problem, not being able to listen to understand, but rather listening to correct or to provide a solution.
Yeah. And as you have, repeated it many times, that behavior is one of the understanding their behavior is one of the most important things. So similarly, what is one thing that you wish every student should understand about their emotions and mindset, which has the potential to change their life forever?
That's a very simple one. I think the first thing that every student needs to be able to do is to be able to understand what are they feeling, to be able to identify that. And when I do workshops for teachers, I very often recommend that they put up a feeling wall so that even if a child doesn't know the vocabulary for what they're feeling, they can look at the wall and they can look at the poster and say, okay, I'm feeling happy. Or they might say something like, I'm thrilled. Now, there's a big difference between being happy and being thrilled, being sad and being remorse. And all of this helps them then manage their behavior. So, the first thing that I would encourage every student to do is to be able to identify what they're feeling. So, for example, when I am angry at something that my friend did, if I can pause and just put a name to my feeling, that will help me respond to the situation in a better way. If I can tell myself, What my friend is doing is making me feel angry. Automatically, you begin to engage your cognitive brain. And when you engage your cognitive brain, it allows you to deal with the situation in a more responsible way.
Hmm. The video got stuck. Okay. So, Anish, there is one more thing, like as you have worked with professionals also. So, how emotional awareness and how working on their emotions can impact their professional life?
Emotions are key to success, whether you're a student, whether you're a professional. Because while we think that, we can have great knowledge about our profession, we might have gone to the best university, we've got the best training. If we're not able to respond to challenging situations in a calm fashion, we will not be able to take up leadership positions. So emotional learning is all about being able to understand the situation and respond in a calm manner, to be able to take decisions that will result in the betterment of the individual and the organization, to be able to have great communication with your colleagues so you build a rapport and the efficiency goes up, to be able to build trust amongst yourself, your colleagues, your boss, the ones who work under you. All of these are skills that come under social emotional learning. And if you have the best knowledge and the best training, but don't have these emotional skills, you will begin to stagnate. You will find it very difficult to take up leadership roles and team management roles because you won't know how to manage your team. If every time something goes wrong, you explode and you get angry and you start yelling, that doesn't benefit anybody. But if you can manage that temper, manage that anger, manage that feeling of disappointment, and respond calmly in a fashion that will help your team, you will be successful.
Yeah, very true. And there are a lot of misconceptions about emotional, health, mental health. There are a lot of misconceptions which people think that these are just this is nothing. They don't need to work on it or something like this. So can you just tell me more about this? Like, what are people think? They think that they are misconception, but they are not misconception, or they are not just disbelief. They are completely wrong. Uh, Things are completely opposite. Can you tell me more about it?
I'm glad you used the word mental health.
Yeah,
So we have physical health and we have mental health. And you can't have one without the other.
true.
Because when you don't have mental health, your body is producing chemicals that are toxic. And those chemicals are flowing in your body and they impact every cell in your body. So you will probably have seen that when somebody is stressed, automatically either their back will start hurting or they'll get stiffness in their joints or something will happen. Their immunity will drop. All of those physiological changes happen with mental health. So being able to manage your mental health as well as your physical health is essential for a person's well-being. I'm sure you've also realized that, when we think positive, when we feel mentally alert, when we are energetic, when we are enthusiastic, our body feels the same way. So,
100%.
I mean, if you even to imagine a situation with maybe an accident, so you've suddenly braked and you've got into an accident, or suddenly seen a child run in front of your car and you've slammed the brakes and you're okay, your heart starts pumping, your palms start sweating, and you might begin to feel really tense in your muscles. All of these are physical symptoms, but they originate from a place where your emotions are running wild in your system at that time because something dangerous happened. You might have been fearful, you might have been angry, you might have been panicked. All these feelings generate physical symptoms. So, mental health and physical health go hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Okay. And as we are at the end of this podcast, Anish, so can you tell me one case study because you have impacted a lot of lives, you have done multiple workshops, events. So can you just tell one of your case study or Like with your work, you have created a big transformation, which feels like when you think about it, like it was magical.
So I worked with children and I've worked with working professionals. So which one would you like me to share?
If you can share the example of both, it would be great.
All right. So when I talk about a child, I think there's one student who's in class 12, a very good student, scored great marks, and is wanting to get into IIT. But somewhere down the line got derailed. And the parents began to worry because he wasn't studying, he wasn't performing, marks dropped, drastically. And so they reached out to me and they said, would you be able to mentor him? And I did some sessions and I realized that it was basically a break in communication between the parents and him. Because while, of course, there were things that he was not doing correctly, the parents were constantly watching him or constantly correcting him. And somewhere down the line, communication broke. And the trust between the two broke, which then resulted in the student beginning to lie. Because the parents didn't trust him, he began to lie. And because all these emotions were in his, suppressed in his system, and he was not able to speak to his parents about this, he would very often lose his temper. And the more he lost his temper and the more he lied, the more the parents yelled. And everything just went downhill. So, helping the child realize where he is, what are the things that are causing his parents to get upset, helping the parents understand what are the things that they are doing that are causing the child not to be able to speak to them honestly has gone a long way. And the parents are extremely happy and they keep saying that, he's turned 160 degrees and he's gone back to what he was earlier. And while I've always said that he was a good kid, I think he just needed that little support so that the communication between him and his parents would improve and he would realize that his goal is not being achieved because of his behavior and because of what he's doing. So that was very satisfying. And if I was to talk about a career person, uh, one of the clients that I had when she began her sessions, she was very confused. So there were many choices in her life. She wanted to change career. She wanted to go overseas for studies. She's a married lady, so she wanted to start a family. And she was just very, very confused about which path to take. So again, as a life coach, I don't provide answers. What I do is I help them realize what is best for them. So through conversations, I was able to help her identify what she feels about all these different choices. What is it that really excites her? What is it she's doing because others are doing it? What is it that she's doing under pressure? Once she was able to identify what she really wanted to do and what she was passionate about, the choices were simpler. So she was able to get a lot of clarity on the path that she wanted to take. So I think these were very satisfying, sessions, and I'm happy to say the clients were happy. I was happy. So it gives a life coach a lot of satisfaction when a client says, "Okay, I think now I'm on the right track. I don't need you anymore. I will come back if I need a conversation, but thank you very much." So when a client leaves the life coach feeling they're now in control, it's the most satisfying for a life coach.
100%. Like, it feels like, it's a blessing to be a coach when you see your work is able to transform and impacts a lot of people's lives. So it is 100% a blessing and so satisfying also. So Anish, thank you so much for your time. And at the end, can you, as you have already, like people can see your contact information in the background. So still like, do you offer any free clarity call?
Absolutely. Because it's important for the life coach to understand whether they're going to be able to help the client or not. And
Hmm.
it's also important for the client to know whether they would like to work with that particular life coach. So I definitely offer a free clarity call. That's absolutely essential. So if anybody would like a session, I'd be very happy. They can drop me a WhatsApp message on the number that I've shared or drop me an email, and we will take it from there.
Yeah, sure. And also, guys, you can message her on Instagram. In the background, you can see her Instagram user ID. It is at the rate Anis underscore Katre. So you can contact her, get the clarity, and start your emotional awareness journey with her because it is so important. Is today's time to understand your emotion, manage your emotion, uh, not just to get your life secure personally but professionally also. It is so important. So Anish, thank you so much for your time. You have shared a lot of insights. It was really lovely talking to you. I got to know a lot of new things also from this podcast, and I'm pretty sure people, those who have watched it, they will get a lot of insights. So once again, thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I was here because I feel this topic needs a lot of awareness. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.